Welcome to episode 6 of the Organized Frenzy podcast. I'm Natasha. I live in Welland, Ontario, Canada with my boyfriend, Jesse, and our 3 cats. And this is a podcast about knitting and if I decide to dive into any other crafts. So today I'm drinking a chai tea latte because normally there's no Starbucks close to my house, so it's kind of on the way to other things. There's one on the way to work, so sometimes I'll stop in, but I bought a futon this morning. So it was, I went to pick it up and just someone was selling it on Kijiji. So I went to pick it up and they live maybe 5 minutes away from where I work. So figured I would stop in. I haven't really been drinking too much tea since we were in Montreal, because I didn't bring any with me there, and then we got back and it was kind of like 1.5 days of downtime and then back to work. And this past week has been kind of crazy and hectic for me. I find that before I take time off, like it's a lot of preparing and getting things ready for when I'm gone, last minute things. And then when I get back, I have a lot of catching up to do. So it's kind of hectic in that sense. I mean, it's not ideal, but it is what it is. So I work Tuesday through Saturday this week, and finally, today's Sunday, I am off. One of Jesse's friends, I can't remember if I mentioned this before, he's coming to live with us. He's going to be working with Jesse. So, we have a bed in the spare room, which is that way. And he's going to be bringing that to the basement, and Jesse snores very loudly sometimes. I feel so bad for him. I don't know if he gets a restful sleep, but I have to wear earplugs if I sleep with him majority of the time, and I'll put him at the end of the bed. So I said, well, let's get a futon or like a sofa couch or something that can go in that spare room so that, you know, if you're snoring too loud, I can just have you sleep in there. So I went on, saw this one this morning. It was only $50. Sent the girl a message, said I could come get it today, and now it's in my car. I was worried that it wasn't gonna fit. I thought maybe we were gonna have to find somebody's like a truck or something to borrow, because I have a small car, just a little hatchback. I wasn't sure if it was gonna fit, but the bed frame, or the wooden frame, it came apart, and of course the mattress kind of folds up, so it worked out. So that was kind of my morning. That was the start of my day. No finished objects yet, so I'll show you what I'm working on. I made a little bit of progress on my Comfort Fade Cardi, but not enough that I want to show it. It's only like a couple inches, so I'll show when I've got some more progress there. I do have some progress on my Christmas socks. So I have, this is where I was last time. Now, this is the bottom or the back. So this is where I was last time. And I did just probably a couple inches here. But I marked off where I'm gonna put my heel. So I know how long my foot is. And I just kind of measured with my sock ruler. Put the stitch markers in. I put 3 markers per sock. So the very first and last stitches and then just somewhere kind of in the middle, because I'm gonna just knit these as a tube, do my cuff, cast off and everything, and then I'm gonna come back and do the heel, like 100% afterthought heel. So that is where I'm at there. I love this yarn. The speckles are so even. I love when you get these like really dark blotches. I think that's my darkest blush. There's a couple stitches here that are darker, but it's so soft. I can't wait to wear these. So this is Lizzie Ann Yarns. I think I have the label in here. No. Where's the label? Did I show this last time? Have I shown this before? This is a little book that I have. The pages are dotted. So I had started doing bullet journaling last year, and I have this mini one. Just, I don't know, I like these notebooks. The paper is fountain pen friendly. It's a really nice paper, nice notebook. So I just write, like for each pair of socks, I just write, you know, like who it's for, the cast on, the pattern that I used, how long I did, the foot, what kind of heel, like all details about it, so that I have reference if I need to go back, because you think you're gonna remember, but you don't. So I wrote it all down. So this is Lizzie Ann Yarns. This is the Holly Berry sock set. And I really haven't worked on these. Well, I mean, I have a bit of progress, but besides that, you know, not in the past few days, I haven't really worked on them. I was feeling the unfinished Christmas gift knit guilt. So I cast on something last night. So for my dad and his wife, I had decided to make them mittens for Christmas because I figured it would be quick and easy. So these are the two yarns that I chose. Now this was supposed to be for my dad's wife, and this was supposed to be for my dad, but let me just get everything out here. Okay, so I finished one this morning. I cast it on last night, finished it this morning. I think it was about I think this is about 3.5 hours. I finished all the decreases and everything, and I didn't like how it looked. It was too boxy. It was still about like this wide at the top, so it was just it was almost like a rectangle. Ugh, I didn't like it. So I ripped back to the last row before the decreases, and then I kind of adjusted the pattern on my own. This is a free pattern on Ravelry. So it's called Mittens for the Fisherman. And, sorry, I printed it in black and white. So I am going to do a project page because I made a couple modifications. Like I said, the top of the hand decreases I changed, and the cuff I did shorter. I think that's all I changed. So this color was supposed to be for my dad. I guess I can't measure. I don't know. I use Jessie's hand as a reference, but maybe it's where the gusset is placed. But these like fit me, and that's like the size that I was gonna do. Look at how like my thumb starts right here, and this is. So yeah, I think these are gonna be for his wife. And I'm gonna have to block these because these are even a little bit short. I don't know if I want to re-knit this and just have this one as like whatever. Because it's already the middle of February and it was supposed to be for Christmas, so you know, I don't want to just say, okay, you're never getting your Christmas gift. This is Patton's Classic Wool Worsted. It's 100% pure new wool. So it is, it's not rough. I don't like when people say that wool is rough because some of it is, but it's a fiber. I don't know. I just love wool. It's a bit more rustic feeling than merino, obviously. But yeah, so I mean, I could crank out the mittens in not too long of a time. Each repeat is like a square. I would probably have to add another 2 squares on. 1 or 2 squares to fit my dad. Maybe I'll add another square on for Angie too. I don't know. Oh, I ripped back also because when I had done it initially, the decreases, so it was more of a rectangle shape, and I guess I wasn't paying attention, but I didn't have the same number of stitches on the front needle as the back needle. I did the magic loop, so I couldn't Kitchener stitch properly. I kind of like made it up as towards the end as I was realizing that it wasn't matched up. But I think you could do a pair of mittens in a day. So I might redo it, but I might just give this to his wife and then make these for my dad. They're very neutral colors, so I don't think it matters, but I probably won't reknit the mitten. I'm just kind of fed up with it. Well, not fed up, but like I said, I was feeling guilty, so I wanted it to be kind of quick and to get it done. So I did, like I said, make those adjustments for the mitten that I will do a project page for eventually. We'll probably start it today. I just have the thumb to finish on those. So they're pretty quick. That's only the 3rd mitten that I've ever knit. The first 2, I did the same number of stitches. This is when I was kind of like learning how to knit. Same number of stitches, and they were completely different sizes because I knit them with very different gauges. I think my first one was too big, so I tried to do the second one tighter. It ended up being like this much difference on my hand. I don't know. But I knit these in Magic Loop. These are just Haya needles, 3.75 millimeters or US 5. And I just have everything in a little project bag from the Kitchen Sink shop. She is located in Ontario, so it's nice to be able to support somebody local. Just a simple drawstring. It's a good size, I thought, for the mittens. So yeah, I have another one of her bags right there as well. I'm gonna be doing a shawl. That was the Hedgehog Fibers Bounce ball of yarn that I wound up when I got my Swift, so I don't know, figured I would put it in a bag and hopefully I would get started on that soon. I have another whip as well, and it's very minimal, but this is my 9-inch circular sock knitting project. I am not timing, so normally I do time myself when I knit just to see how long things take. This one I'm not timing because I am not fast at all with these, so it's kind of like defeating. Like a pair of socks normally takes 20 hours. This one sock's probably going to take 20 hours. So I don't want to know how long it's going to take. And I was kind of working on this at the knitting lessons that I was giving to a couple of my coworkers / friends. So I don't want to have to like pause each time they're asking me a question or whatever. It's in this small little bag. It does, I don't know if it's lined at all, maybe not, but it folds up really small and I can just shove it in my purse. So that's what I did. I brought it a couple different places, just like sitting in the car or at the knitting lessons that I was doing, just to have something to do. And then I'm like slowly gonna familiarize myself with knitting on those tiny needles. They're so small. I don't know, I'm not super comfortable with them yet. When I knit, I squeeze like this with my thumb so this gets sore. If it's that's when it's with small needles. The bigger the needles that I knit with, well, kind of like mid-sized needles, it doesn't get that sore. But then if I'm knitting with like huge needles, then that will get sore too, because I'm trying to hold everything and it's a bit bigger. So just kind of getting used to how that's working out. I didn't want to rush myself with it or anything like that. I got some new scissors, which look like glasses. I got 3 pairs. I found them on Amazon. I think I searched foldable scissors or something like that, because I remember when I was younger, and I'm sure my family still has these, my grandma would get these like little tiny scissors from Chinatown, and it was about this size, but the handle folds down and then it exposes the blade, so it folds up like that. And I said, oh, if I can find some of those, I can just, cheap scissors and keep them in different knitting bags. Thought that would be great. I didn't see any of them for like a good price, so I saw these instead, and they're foldable as well. So this slides out, and then there are the scissors. So they're not, it feels a bit loose when you go and do this. It's literally just to snip if I need to break the yarn at all. And it folds back in, and then you slide that back together. So they're kind of, oh, the blade's sticking out there. They are not a super good quality, because I think they were like $3 each or something. But I got 3 pairs, and never seemed to have enough scissors, so I just threw a couple of these in the different bags that I had. But I wanted to show them because I thought they were kind of cool if anyone was looking for cheap scissors. What else do I want to talk about? Oh yeah, the knitting lessons that I just started. So there's 2 girls that I'm teaching how to knit. And what I did, I showed it last time, so they have their knitting stuff right now. I just got a worsted weight blended yarn, so it's 80% acrylic, 20% wool. So it wasn't like just a gross acrylic, but it had a little bit of wool content. Worsted weight, I got size 5mm needles. I got the bamboo double pointed needles just from Walmart because they were cheap. So each girl has 2 double pointed needles right now. And I cast on 30 stitches and I knit like 2 or 3 rows. And then I knit half of the next row so that they could start knitting in the middle of a row and not worry about that first stitch, because it's always kind of wonky, that first stitch. And that's what they were noticing too. They said, why is this first one like weird? And I just said, that's just how it is. Like, you just have to kind of get used to it. Anyway, so the one knew the knit stitch already. So she was kind of zipping along, and she knew how to purl as well. She just needed like a reminder, so we did that. And then the other girl, just before we had even started, she said, I'm gonna throw a wrench in the plan. And I'm thinking, what are you talking about? She goes, I think you already know this about me, but I'm left-handed. And I said, oh yeah, I know. I was already thinking about it. And I was explaining to them there are multiple ways to knit, so I kind of showed them how I knit. I started them off throwing because I feel like that's easier than continental. Maybe it's easier in my mind because that's how I learned how to knit, but I did show them continental as well. The girl who's left-handed, she ended up feeling most comfortable left-handed throwing. So I said, actually, the way that you knit is not as common as these other two ways that I showed you. And she's like, oh, okay. Like, doesn't matter to her. I taught her how to purl, and I said, I'm not 100% sure, like, how it's gonna feel comfortable for you, given the way that you're knitting. So I kind of just said, like, you've got to figure it out and see how it feels comfortable, but I showed her how the yarn goes, so she was kind of practicing her own thing. And it's funny, she brought her knitting to work the next day after a knitting lesson, and she said, okay, can you look at this? Like, I think I messed something up. And then I was looking, and she was doing pretty good. She had just done an increase by doing a yarn over. So I showed her last night, or the previous night, how to decrease as well. Just knit two together. So I said, that's all you have to do. And I said, you're already on your way to learning how to knit lace. But she's been practicing and enjoying it. So I said, go to YouTube and look up Very Pink Knits. The cat's out there. I said, there's a tutorial for like anything you could ever want. Her goal is to make socks, and she was asking if they're hard, and I said, no. There's just like a couple techniques that I'll show you how to do, but it's knit, purl, increase, decrease, pick up stitches is basically it. So we'll see next time. I don't know when our next lesson's gonna be. Sometime this week. Might have to be Saturday because our shifts or our schedules don't really line up as well as they did last week, so we'll see. Yeah, so that went well, and yeah. Now for my 2018, I guess, knitting goals, if you want to call it that. I'm sure you've all seen the new Ravelry tab challenge or whatever it's called. So I set my goal as 12 finished objects. Because I think that's a reasonable number. I did more than 12 finished objects last year, but I don't like to like set goals in that way because I don't like when it's like a finite goal by deadline. I like to have a general idea. I like to plan the process. That's kind of how I work when it comes to goals, like personal goals. Anyways, at work there's deadlines, so and maybe that's why I don't like to set goals, because at work I have it, right? So it's, can you hear the scratching? Simba, you're not coming in. He likes to scratch at the door to be let in because he's very needy. Maybe I will let him in, maybe not. So I put 12 because I think that's reasonable. I think I'll do more than 12, but I just, want to see how that goes. And there's a bunch of, oh my gosh, there's so many things that I want to knit this year. I wish I could knit everything like now. and things that I want to finish from last year that I didn't finish, right? Like a couple shawls and things like that. So I am gonna try and minimize how many WIPs I have on the go. I had started, I think I can only allow myself like one big project at a time, because I had started the Comfort Fade Cardi, or sorry, What the Fade shawl, and that thing is huge. I'm like halfway done, not even, but the rows are like keep getting longer and longer and longer. And there's just so many different colors of yarn, like 6 different colors. So it's kind of overwhelming to have all of that going at once. Plus, I always want to have a pair of socks on the needles, and I'm working on a cardigan right now. So I kind of just want to clean up what I'm working on, and because now I'm like noticing that I need needles from projects that have the needles in use, and I don't necessarily want to take the needles off those projects, because then one, I have to remember what size needle I was using, but also like I just feel like I'm not going to come back to the project if I have to take the needles off. So it's kind of tricky. I don't know. I didn't do a lot of knitting this week. Last week was great while I was on holidays, because I felt like I got a lot done. There's just a lot of knitting time, right? Because it wasn't working. But now being at work, and it's like back to reality, and it's like I have 2 days off for the weekend, and I have to spend it, gotta clean and do chores and this and that, so it's not as much knitting time. But I mean, what can you do, right? So I don't know. We'll see. I just want to minimize the projects that I have, so I'm not so overwhelmed by the number of projects, and I can like focus on 1 or 2 at a time and then get those done hopefully quicker than just kind of leaving them to the side. So that's kind of one of the things that I want to do. And I also told myself that I was not going to buy yarn for a while, because I have quite a bit. It's not, I mean, I'm not against stashing. If you have a beautiful stash of yarn, then I'm envious of you, because you can, you know, if you see a project that you like, likely you have the yarn for it, and you can just go looking through your colors. But I don't have a ton of space to store yarn, first of all. Second of all, I don't knit that fast. Like I just don't have a lot of knitting time, right? So the more yarn that I accumulate, the less I'm going to use. Does that make sense? So this is my stash that I have, and I've showed this, or I guess you've seen it before. All of the shelves do have yarn on them. There's one more shelf under here. And they were 2 kits that I got from Knit Picks. One is for a shawl, and I can never remember what it's called, but I think it's Wool of the Andes or something like that. And then there's also some Knit Picks Brava worsted. I don't know. Maybe it's Sport or something. DK, I don't really know. But the Hue Shift Afghan was one of the other kits that I got. So it's nice rainbow there. And then just, yeah. Those big white ones are cotton that I wanted to make a beach or a swimsuit cover up for. Didn't do it because I was going to crochet it, and I suck at crochet. Plus this pattern was like confusing. I did find a knit pattern that I'm going to do instead, so, but I don't love knitting with cotton yarn. Does anybody? So it's, I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I'm gonna try and go through my stash yarn because, okay, so this shelf is all sock yarn. It's all yarn for socks. Plus there's some below. Can you see this bin? Is it there? I'm so confused. Oh wait, no, it's down below. Right here. That bin has just some Drops Fable. And then the shelf right here is all gonna be for shawls. And I want to organize it a little bit better so that it's not so mumble jumble. The yarn that I got from Miss Bass Tricot I haven't put on the shelf yet, but it's shawl yarn, so it's gonna go up there. I got a sock yarn and bag set from Lindsay Ann Yarns, and I forgot to put that on the shelf, but I have that. And then Lori did a 3-month Gilmore Girls sock club. So I love Gilmore Girls. I watched the entire thing. I watched not the rerun, whatever it's called, A Year in the Life or whatever. I watched that as well and loved it. So I don't know. I couldn't resist. So I have that coming, and so that's 3 skeins purchased. I bought it, what was it, last year? Yeah. So it doesn't count towards my not buying any yarn in 2018. So I bought the stuff from Miss Bass Tricot, and then I was gonna get some of the Manos del Uruguay Fino for the Unda shawl by Knit Graffiti. They didn't have, like, the colors that they had I wasn't loving, so I found somewhere else to buy it online from. And that is the last yarn that I can allow myself to buy for 2018. Because the yarn that I have, like, it's just so beautiful. I mean, some of the sock yarn is commercial sock yarn, but it's going to be nice, sturdy socks. But I don't want those skeins of yarn to just sit and do nothing. Like, I have yarn from January of last year that I still haven't used. Maybe not necessarily January, but like early last year, that I still haven't used because I keep getting new yarn, and then I use that sometimes. Like, I can't knit fast enough to keep up with my stash. So that's the plan, to use stash yarns for this year. So I'm gonna always keep a pair of socks on the go, just because I love knitting socks, and keep a shawl going because I do have a lot of shawl yarns, yarn for shawls, and then kind of another project depending on what I'm working on. So plus scrappy sock blanket, scrappy sock yarn blanket. So ideally right now what I would have on the go would be my Christmas socks, a shawl, and my Comfort Fade cardi, plus a couple random things like the blanket and the 9-inch circular socks, because that's not like to me that's not a full project. I'm doing them as shorty socks, and it's more like a learning thing, just to practice, like, kind of fun, see how it goes thing. So I don't want to count that towards my thing, but I have more than that right now. You have 2 shawls, Comfort Fade cardi, socks, now the mittens that I started for Christmas. What else? I don't know. I can't have just one project, I've discovered, because, like, I started out like that, and, you know, I thought it was good. But that's when I was knitting just socks, and then I cast on my first shawl, and I was knitting socks at the same time, and I'm like, oh, I like having the choice to go back and forth, you know, depending on what you're feeling, like how much time you have, what size needles you want to be using, because socks are tiny and needles that use for shawls are like the perfect size for me. Okay, that was really weird. Somebody called me and then hung up as I answered. The needle sizes that are used for shawls, I was like, perfect. Is my favorite size to use. Sock needles are tiny, and if I knit socks too long, my hands will hurt. Shawls is not quite so painful, I guess. 3.75 millimeter, I like. 3.5 is getting a bit small, but then like 4 and 5 millimeters are great sizes. And then getting bigger than that, it gets a little bit more uncomfortable again. I would prefer to knit with sock needles over jumbo needles. I think it's easier to hold, it is. But yeah, so I still haven't gone to the post office to mail my sister's socks. I feel really bad. Well, I want to show you my pin collection. I do still have one pin on the way, I think. But this is what I have as of right now. So I think it's just the one more that I have on the way. But the one that says Crafty Bitch with the scissors, I thought it was funny. They sent me a sticker as well. I guess this is her website. So I'm gonna send this with my sister's socks. She said she would take it. I mean, I would keep it, but I think she would get more use out of it than me. So I'm gonna send that with her socks. And I have the 2 hats for my uncles. I'm not going to finish those mittens for my dad and his wife yet, so I'll worry about mailing those later. But yeah, I don't think there's really too much else to talk about. For Knittertainment, I'm still going on the Harry Potter, or the 6th Harry Potter book, Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Still working on that one. Audiobook, and I haven't listened to it too much lately. Just Jesse and I have been watching a lot of Boy Meets World. I did watch some Jane the Virgin last night. I finished season 2, so that was a crazy ending. And then I couldn't bring myself to watch season 3 yet, so I don't know. But that's what I've been doing. For apps I love, I realized I should have said this, or we should have talked about this one last week when I got back from Montreal, but Uber. The first time I used it was when we were in Montreal, and it's so great. We had a parking spot at our place, and we paid for it, so Jesse he didn't want to drive around in Montreal just because it's kind of busy. So he said we're just going to take Uber everywhere. So we both downloaded the app, got it all set up before we got there, and it is great. You know, it's all location based, right? So you set your pickup point, choose your destination, and choose what kind of vehicle you want. You can choose, you know, like an economy class or I don't want to call first class, but like a nicer vehicle. And it kind of gives you a price range, and then it's all paid for on your credit card or whatever you have linked up. You rate the people, you can give them a tip, but it's all cashless. It's such a smooth process, and they have, you know, like, they're trying very hard, not trying too hard, but they want you to rate them well, because if you rate them below a certain range or target or whatever, like if their rating drops below, so it's out of 5 stars, if their rating drops below a certain benchmark, and I think it's different for each city that you're in, it will, like, their account will be suspended, or they'll be kicked off. They won't be able to drive anymore. So they're not going to give you a hard time, and you as a customer get a rating as well. You can't see your own rating unless I think you have to email the support team or something, but the driver gives you a rating, and so other drivers can see when you've requested a ride, they will see your rating, and they don't have to pick you up if they don't want to. But it's pretty cool, like how it works. It's just such a seamless process. You're never waiting a very long time. We did use it in Toronto as well, when we stopped there after Montreal. So yeah, it's just not really big in our area because it's not a busy city. Like, mostly everyone's got a car, or you know, there's public transport, so there's not as much of a demand or supply for it. Look at me talking about economics. That's what I went to school for. But yeah, so that would be one of the apps that I love. But yeah, so thanks for joining me for the 6th week in a row, if you have been keeping up. Hopefully get some more knitting time today. The futon, so Jesse and I are both off tomorrow. We'll kind of organize the futon tomorrow. I am planning on I have this giant desk that we're using downstairs right now as a dining room table, but we do have a table as well that's propped up against the wall right now. So that giant desk I want to bring upstairs to the spare room, have the futon in there. So I'm hoping that I can get that all set up tomorrow, because Jesse's friend is moving in this week. I think he's starting to come bring some things on Thursday, and then coming for like the final thing on Saturday. So we have some cleaning to do before he gets here. He's not expecting it to be perfect, which is helpful. But I do like things kind of orderly. They may not think so because my username kind of indicates it. Oh, I forgot to say that at the beginning. I am on Instagram as Organized Frenzy, on Ravelry as Natasha Hillier, and there is an Organized Frenzy podcast group on Ravelry. But as my username indicates, Organized Frenzy, that's kind of what my life is like. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But I think I'm going to set up the sewing machine in the spare room once it's all set up. So I think I'm going to go downstairs. Maybe I'll watch Jane the Virgin or do some laundry and then do that. I don't know what I'm going to work on right now. Maybe I'll do the mittens. I'll probably do that to get one pair done. I was going to put a lining in them. I'm not going to do that now. I don't feel like doing it. So I have this extra ball of yarn that I don't know what I'm going to do with. I have some miscellaneous balls of yarn too from like when I first started to knit like years ago that are a weird texture, or it's acrylic. So I think I'm going to, I don't know, maybe I'll donate it. My best friend Steph, she works with youth, and one of the youth that she works with knits, and so maybe I'll give her the yarn to give to him. We'll see. But yeah, so that's kind of it for now. This is one of the new things. This is something I got from Shenanigans. Just a scrap weaving and ends box kind of thing, which they stained for me as I asked them to. Just a little wooden box. It still smells like the stain, so it's kind of gross. I haven't woven in any ends since this came. When I finish those mittens, I will have some ends to weave in, and I'll just keep all the ends in here. So they're all kind of contained in it. It looks cool when it's done. I saw Amber, the yarn hoarder, she had she had a little box and I just thought it was the cutest thing ever. So naturally I ordered one for myself. So yep, that's my plans for today. But thank you for watching, and come join me in the Ravelry group. Maybe I'll start a little like introductions thread or something, just to get to know everybody. There's really not much going on in that Ravelry group. I don't have lots to contribute. I'm not gonna do any giveaways, I don't think, anytime soon, or knit-alongs or anything like that. It's just a place to hang out, and I would like to meet you guys. So yeah, thanks for watching, and have a good weekend, and I will see you next week. Bye.